Have you ever felt someone warm and close one day, then distant the next, as if a switch flipped in their chest? And have you ever blamed yourself for their silence, even when your heart kept whispering that they did care? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to talk about one of the most confusing emotional experiences in modern dating and relationships, the avoidant disappearing act. The kind that makes you question your intuition, your worth, your sanity, and sometimes even your future. But we are not going to approach it like gossip or like a quick trick to get someone back. We are going to approach it like practice, like karma, like awakening. Here are the two truths I want to offer you at the start. First, someone can care and still pull away, not because you are unlovable, but because closeness triggers their nervous system like danger. Second, your destiny in love is not decided by who ghosts you. It is decided by what you repeatedly choose when you feel fear. Karma is the momentum of your inner habits, and love, if it is going to heal rather than harm, must be guided by wisdom and compassion, not by panic and chasing. Let me tell you a story. Because avoidant behavior becomes clearer when you see it in real life, not just in labels. I met him at a small coffee place that smelled like toasted sugar and burned espresso. He was the kind of person who looked calm without trying, not arrogant, not loud, just steady. When he listened, he actually listened. His eyes did not dart around the room searching for attention. They stayed with you. And when he spoke, his words were simple, almost careful, like he had learned that talking too much could invite trouble. We talked for a long time. That first meeting, it did not feel like a performance. It felt like relief. You know, that rare moment when the nervous system relaxes and thinks, finally, someone safe. That is how it felt. He asked questions that were not shallow. He laughed easily. He shared small personal details, the kind that signaled trust. And at the end, he said he wanted to see me again. The next week, the messages were steady, not constant, not overwhelming, but consistent. He sent good mornings sometimes. He asked about my day. He remembered little things and brought them up later, like he was storing pieces of me in his mind. We met again, then again. Everything felt like it was building. And then, right when my body started believing the connection was real, something shifted. The replies slowed down. He stopped initiating. Plans became vague. When we did meet, he was still kind, still warm, still attentive. But the space between meetings stretched. The silence got longer. The energy felt like a tide pulling back. At first I did what most people do. I searched for reasons in the surface world. Work stress, family issues. Maybe he is busy. Maybe he is tired. Maybe he is just not a big texter. The mind tries to protect itself by creating explanations that keep hope alive. But then the fear arrived. The fear does not ask politely. It kicks the door in. It says, "You are being abandoned again." It says, "You are too much." It says, "You said something wrong." It says, "He found someone better." It says, "If you do not act now, you will lose him." This is where most people create their own suffering, not because they are weak, but because the nervous system goes into survival mode. And survival mode does not think in wisdom. It thinks in urgency. So I did what many people do. I reached out more. I tried to secure the bond. I asked questions that were really disguised requests for reassurance. Are we okay? Did I do something? Are you still interested? I did not say it with drama, but the energy underneath was loud. The energy underneath said, "Please do not leave." He responded politely. He said everything was fine. He said he was just busy. He said he cared. And then he disappeared again. That is the maddening part. The part that makes you feel crazy. The words and the behavior do not match. The warmth is real, but the distance is real too. The care is present, but the withdrawal is present too. If you have been there, you know how it can scramble the mind, because the mind wants a clean story. Either he cares or he does not. Either it is safe or it is not. Either you should stay or you should go. But avoidant patterns live in the gray zone, and the gray zone forces you to learn discernment. Here is what I learned, and I want you to hear it like a bell. Avoidant withdrawal is not always a decision against you. Sometimes it is a reflex against intimacy. Think of intimacy like heat. For someone with an avoidant nervous system, warmth can feel good at first, but when it gets too close, the heat becomes threat. They start feeling trapped. They start feeling exposed. They start feeling responsible for your feelings. And if they learned long ago that closeness leads to pain, their body will protect them the only way it knows how, by creating space. It can look like ghosting. It can look like delaying replies. It can look like suddenly becoming busy. It can look like turning affectionate conversations into jokes. It can look like withdrawing after a great date. It can even look like picking a fight over something small, because conflict creates distance and distance feels safe. And yes, they can still care, because caring is an emotion, but relating is a skill. If someone never learned how to stay present in closeness, their care will not automatically become consistent behavior. It will become a push and pull, a pattern that hurts both people. This is where karma enters again. Karma is not a supernatural punishment. Karma is cause and effect. If someone learned that depending on others is dangerous, they will tend to create independence at all costs. If they learned that emotions are unsafe, they will shut down when emotions rise. If they learned that love means losing yourself, they will disappear when love becomes real. It is not because they are evil. It is because they are conditioned. But here is the next bell, and it matters just as much. Your compassion for their conditioning must never become an excuse to abandon yourself. A lot of people make a spiritual mistake here. They discover the psychological explanation, and then they turn it into a prison. They say, "He is avoidant, he is wounded, he cannot help it, so I must be patient forever. I must love harder. I must prove I am safe. I must do the work for both of us." That is not compassion. That is self-betrayal wearing a holy mask. Compassion includes wisdom. Wisdom includes boundaries. Boundaries are not punishment. Boundaries are protection. In Buddhist practice, compassion without wisdom becomes attachment. Wisdom without compassion becomes cold. The middle way is to hold both. So what does the middle way look like when an avoidant person starts to disappear? It starts with one question, asked quietly, inside your own chest. What am I choosing right now? Fear or clarity? Because the moment they pull away, your nervous system will want to chase. It will want to fix. It will want to persuade. It will want to collapse into self-blame or explode into accusation. And if you act from that place, you strengthen your own karmic pattern. You train your mind to respond to distance with panic. That training does not just affect this relationship. It affects your destiny. If you keep practicing panic, panic becomes your default language of love. If you keep practicing self-abandonment, self-abandonment becomes normal. If you keep practicing chasing, you start confusing chasing with caring. And then even healthy love can feel boring because it does not trigger the same adrenaline. This is why awakening is not a pretty idea. Awakening is the discipline of not obeying the first impulse. Let me go back to the story. After his third long silence, I decided to do something different, not to manipulate him, not to punish him, but to practice clarity. I stopped sending follow-ups. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I stopped narrating his silence into a story about my worth. And I did the hardest thing. I sat with my own feelings. I noticed the tightness in my chest. I noticed the restless buzzing in my hands. I noticed the urge to run toward him, just to make the anxiety stop. And I named it. This is anxiety. This is attachment. This is fear of loss. In Midfoliant, naming is powerful. It turns the emotion from a ruler into a visitor. The visitor can stay, but it cannot command the house as easily when you recognize it. Then I asked myself another question. If he never comes back, will I still be okay? Not will I be happy immediately. Not will it be painless. But will I be okay? The answer, after a long breath, was yes. And that yes was not arrogance. It was sovereignty. That yes was me marrying myself. Because this is the truth most people avoid. If you cannot be okay without someone, you will never be free with them. You will be dependent. And dependence feels like love to an anxious mind, but it becomes a cage. A few days later, he returned with a message. Sorry, busy week. Hope you are doing well. The old version of me would have flooded him with warmth. Just grateful he came back. The old version of me would have pretended nothing happened, because confronting it felt like risk, and the anxious mind avoids risk if it might cause loss. But I practiced gentle power. I replied calmly. I said I was glad to hear from him, and I said something honest. I enjoy spending time with you, and I also need consistency to feel safe. When there are long gaps with no communication, it does not work for me. I did not threaten. I did not beg. I did not accuse. I simply stated reality. He responded fast, which surprised me. He said he understood. He said he did not want to hurt me. He said he cared. Then he added something that revealed the real battle. He said he gets overwhelmed when things start to feel serious. That is the avoidant truth. Not always spoken, but often present. Overwhelmed by what? Not by you as a person. Overwhelmed by intimacy, by expectation, by the feeling that love will demand something they do not know how to give. Overwhelmed by the fear that if you see them fully, you will leave. Overwhelmed by the fear that if they commit, they will lose their freedom. Overwhelmed by the belief that closeness equals danger. So we talked, slowly, not like a dramatic movie scene, more like two people trying to translate nervous systems. And here is what I learned that might help you if you are dealing with an avoidant pattern. Avoidant people often do not respond to pressure. Pressure confirms their fear that closeness equals control. When they feel chased, they run, but they also do not respond to vagueness forever, because vagueness allows them to hide, and hiding prevents real intimacy. If you never ask for what you need, you will never know if they can meet you, and you will spend months or years living on crumbs, calling it love. So the practice is to be clear without being controlling. Clear means you name what you need. Consistency, communication, reliability, emotional presence. Not controlling means you do not try to force it. You do not stalk. You do not interrogate. You do not punish. You do not twist yourself into a pretzel to become easier to love. You offer a simple truth. This is what I need. If you can meet it, I am here. If you cannot, I bless you and I step back. That is compassion and wisdom together. Now let us talk about the deeper spiritual layer, because this is where the theme becomes more than eating advice. This becomes a path. In Buddhism, the root of suffering is clinging, but clinging has many costumes. One costume is clinging to a person. Another costume is clinging to a story. Another costume is clinging to control. Another costume is clinging to the identity of being the one who tries harder. When someone ghosts you, it can trigger the deepest clinging. The clinging to certainty, the clinging to being chosen, the clinging to not feeling rejected. But rejection is not always what is happening. Sometimes it is their fear. Sometimes it is your mismatch. Sometimes it is life. Sometimes it is simply two patterns colliding. The awakening move is to stop making it a verdict on your worth. Your worth is not negotiated by someone else's nervous system. Your worth is innate. When you know that, you stop chasing people who cannot hold you. And that changes your karma, because the moment you stop chasing, you stop selecting avoidant dynamics unconsciously. You start selecting stability. You start selecting mutual effort. You start selecting people who have done at least some work on their own patterns. This is where destiny shifts quietly. People think destiny changes by finding the right person. But often destiny changes by becoming the kind of person who stops tolerating what harms them. Now I want to share another story, because one story is not enough to show the full shape of this. I knew a woman who kept falling for avoidant men. Every time, the beginning was intense. Chemistry, deep talks, big promises, then the distance, then her panic, then the chase, then the collapse. One day she told me, "I think I am addicted to the beginning." That sentence was honest and brave. I asked her why. She said the beginning feels like proof. Proof that she is lovable. Proof that life can be exciting. Proof that she is alive. But the beginning is easy. The beginning is novelty. The beginning does not ask you to be seen in your ordinary self. The real work begins when the relationship requires consistency, and consistency requires capacity. Avoidant people can do intensity. Intensity is not intimacy. Intensity is a spike. Intimacy is a steady flame. So I asked her another question. What would it feel like to date someone stable? She laughed. She said it would feel boring. That was the bell. Because when your nervous system is used to turbulence, peace can feel empty. Not because peace is empty, but because your body mistakes calm for danger. It is not used to calm. It does not know what to do without adrenaline. This is why healing is training the nervous system, not just understanding ideas. She began practicing. She started noticing when she was drawn to someone who felt unpredictable. She started naming the pull as a trauma echo, not as destiny. She started choosing people who felt steady even if the chemistry was slower. And she practiced staying when her mind wanted to flee from calm. Over time, something changed. Calm started feeling safe. Steady started feeling attractive. And she stopped being haunted by ghosts because she stopped walking into haunted houses. That is karma. Now, if you are listening and you are currently in the middle of being ghosted, I want to speak to you with compassion, because this pain is real. Being ghosted can feel like being erased. The mind starts spinning. What did I do? Was any of it real? Why did they disappear? Why was I not worth a goodbye? This is where the practice of compassion becomes medicine. Compassion first for yourself. You are allowed to feel hurt. You are allowed to feel angry. You are allowed to feel confused. Do not shame your feelings. Shame adds poison to pain. Then compassion with wisdom toward them. Yes, they may be wounded. Yes, they may be avoidant. Yes, they may be overwhelmed. but their wound does not grant them the right to harm you without accountability. And here is the most important compassion attack you can do. Do not chase someone who disappears. Not because you are playing a game, not because you are trying to appear strong, but because chasing teaches your nervous system that you must abandon yourself to earn connection. That is a terrible seed. Instead, practice the middle way. If you want to reach out once with clarity, do it. Say something simple and honest. I enjoyed our time. I noticed the communication stopped. If you are not interested, I wish you well. If something is going on, I am open to a conversation. Then stop. Let their response reveal their capacity. If they respond with honesty and effort, you can decide what to do from clarity. If they respond with vagueness and repetition of the same pattern, believe them, not their words, their pattern. Wisdom is believing patterns. Now let us talk about the role of awakening here. Because awakening is not only sitting on a cushion. Awakening is what you do when your attachment is activated. When you feel the urge to check their social media, pause, breathe, ask, what am I hoping to find? Usually the answer is reassurance, or proof, or control. None of those will heal you. They will only feed the addiction. When you feel the urge to send another message, pause, breathe, ask, am I communicating, or am I begging? Communication is clear and calm. Begging is anxious and urgent. When you feel the urge to blame yourself, pause, breathe, ask, is this a fact or a story? When you feel the urge to hate them, pause, breathe, ask, what boundary do I need? Hatred is often a boundary that has not been spoken. Then practice gentle power. Gentle power is not a speech. Gentle power is a choice. Choose to protect your peace. Choose to treat yourself as worthy of consistency. Choose to stop romanticizing confusion. Choose to stop confusing intensity with intimacy. Choose to stop calling absence a mystery when it is simply absence. This is how you turn a painful experience into a path. Now I want to connect this to a deeper principle from wisdom traditions. The mind wants to grasp. The heart wants to belong. But belonging that costs your dignity is not belonging. It is captivity. In Buddhist practice, there is an understanding that suffering is information. It points to attachment. It points to ignorance. It points to where compassion is needed. It points to where you are asleep. So if you are suffering because someone disappeared, ask yourself gently, what am I attached to? The person, the potential, the fantasy, the validation, the hope that this will finally heal an old wound. Then ask, can I meet that need inside myself first? If the need is to feel chosen, choose yourself today through one act of self-respect. If the need is to feel safe, create safety through routine, sleep, nourishment, support, and calming practices. If the need is to feel seen, let yourself be seen by someone safe, a friend, a therapist, a community, or even your own journal where you tell the truth without judgment. And if the need is love, practice love as action, starting with yourself, because the person you are always with is you. And if you are not kind to that person, no partner can make you whole. This is why the spiritual path is inseparable from relationship. Relationship is the dojo. It is where your deepest patterns get activated. It is where karma becomes visible. Now I want to share one more scene from my story with that avoidant man, because it ended in a way that taught me something important. After our honest talk, things improved for a while. He communicated more. He tried. I could feel his effort. But then, when the relationship reached another level of closeness, meeting friends, making future plans, talking about commitment. The old fear returned. He withdrew again. This time, I did not chase. I felt the grief. I felt the disappointment. I felt the temptation to bargain. But I practiced. I told him gently that I cared about him. And I also needed a partner who could stay present. I said I would not keep cycling through closeness and disappearance. I wished him well, and I stepped back. It was painful, but it was clean. Clean pain heals faster than dirty pain. Dirty pain is pain plus chasing, plus shame, plus obsession, plus self-blame, plus trying to control the uncontrollable. Clean pain is pain held with dignity and compassion. A few weeks later, he reached out. He said he missed me. He said he realized he had patterns. He said he wanted to work on himself. I listened, and I believed his feelings. But I did not confuse feelings with readiness. I told him I respected his honesty, and I hoped he would do the work for his own life, not for me. And I said I could not return to the same dynamic. That moment was a quiet awakening, not because I felt powerful, but because I finally felt aligned. Aligned means your choices match your values, and alignment is the real blessing, because alignment creates peace, and peace is the foundation for healthy love. If he truly did the work, he would become a better partner for someone one day, maybe even for me in another timeline. But my path in that moment was to stop repeating the karma of chasing absence. That is the practice. Now, let me speak directly to you again. If you are dealing with someone avoidant, the goal is not to diagnose them like a puzzle. The goal is to see the pattern and choose your dignity. If you are avoiding yourself, the goal is not to shame yourself. The goal is to build capacity. Learn to tolerate intimacy. Learn to communicate when you feel overwhelmed. Learn to soothe your nervous system without disappearing. That is also karma. That is also awakening. And if you are anxious, the goal is not to become numb. The goal is to become steady. Learn to soothe yourself. Learn to ask for what you need. Learn to walk away when the pattern harms you. That is not rejection. That is self-respect. This is how love becomes a path of wisdom. This is how heartbreak becomes a teacher. This is how your destiny changes, not by luck, but by practice. Thank you for being here with me. If this story resonated, I want you to share your experience in the comments. Have you ever been ghosted by someone you could feel cared? And what did you do next? And if you could go back, what would you choose from clarity instead of fear? If you want more long-form storytelling that blends psychology with mindfulness and turns real relationship pain into lessons on karma, compassion, wisdom, and awakening, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment so this community can grow. Membership support also helps keep these deep dives coming. Until next time, may you choose the kind of love that does not disappear, and may you become the kind of presence you have been searching for.